Welcome back to Weather Now. Joining me here today is Houston Chronicle meteorologist Justin Ballard to discuss how frost forms as we expect our next cold front arriving tomorrow morning.
And frost possible for some.
Frost potential.
For
Absolutely.
some.
Okay,
Yeah.
Let's talk about first off context, when we typically get our first frost and all those kinds of things.
Normally this time of the year is when we start looking for, first frost-free sort of products to really start being issued in earnest. Usually it does happen around November though. So we're talking the last couple of days, the last week or so on average. Now this is dating back to, the late 1800s, that first bullet that you're seeing there. The normal first low at or below 36 degrees occurs usually around November 24th. Now, over the last 10 years, since 2014, believe it or not, the first 36 degree or lower temperature occurs a couple days earlier.
That's interesting.
Kind of bucks the trend that you would expect.
Because we're seeing the opposite when it comes to our first actual
everything
freeze.
else.
Yeah. Now, some people are saying, wait a minute, you said frost and I saw 36 degrees. What's the deal with that? I thought you had to get 32 to get a frost.
So 32 is the freezing point, and there is actually the ability for frost to form when temperatures are a little bit warmer than 32 degrees. Now, our lows that we've got coming up Wednesday, Thursday may not quite be cold enough for that, which we'll show that in just a second. But I want to kind of talk to you about how those temperatures may be a little warmer than, 32 and still get frost. So the official temperature recording at Bush Intercontinental Hobby, really any airport that measures temperatures, are taken about 6 feet or so above the ground. So the air temperature may read 36 degrees, but guess what? It gets cooler as you go a little closer to the ground, and that's when those temperatures drop closer to 32 degrees or even lower than that. So that, of course, results in frost.
So to give people even a little more inside baseball here, we call the standard temperature that we give you as a prediction the 2-meter temperature, because it's measured 2 meters off the ground. And what you're talking about is what we call the skin temperature, which is just above the literal ground. That's why the temperature can be several degrees colder.
And, when you're talking about temperatures 36 to 32, that's within that range where frost certainly is possible. That's why we use 36 degrees as kind of that threshold for, frost may be a thing that happens. But once you start getting above that, it would be almost not quite impossible, but you'd have to really have the right conditions present to get to frost 37, 30, 39 degrees.
And what are those conditions really to get frost to form? Even if it hits 36, doesn't mean you're going to get frost. You have to have some other things going on too.
Well, first of all, you've got to have enough moisture in the air, if you will, enough atmospheric moisture for dew to form or frost to form, which that's essentially what frost is kind of icy dew. But if you don't have enough moisture in the air, you're not going to get anything like that to form.
It also helps when you have the lighter winds as well, because that air, as it gets stirred up, can warm things up a little more.
And Tuesday night into Wednesday morning, we may have an issue with wind, not so much really gusty wind, but we may have just enough to keep frost from forming. Certainly here in Greater Houston, but maybe to the north where temperatures drop into the mid-30s. I mean, possible. We could see some frost.
Yeah. So we showed you those low temperature maps earlier, and we got them again if you want to see them real fast. But mid to upper 30s is what we're forecasting for most of southeast Texas.
Both Wednesday morning and again on Thursday morning. So if you're north and west of Houston, maybe watch out for some frost or even freeze alerts. You see those lows Wednesday. And then Thursday, maybe a degree or two cooler in a couple of spots. Brenham, Bastrop, getting close to that 32 degree mark. Cleveland at 32 degrees. So I wouldn't be surprised to see some freeze alerts or frost advisories issued locally.
And if you have tropical plants, they're cold sensitive anyways. It doesn't have to get to freezing.
Exactly.
Might as well bring those in or cover them up just to be on the safe side.
I've got a fern and a cactus, and I'll be bringing them in both nights.
All right, Justin Ballard, thanks for joining us. And when you come back Wednesday, we're talking part 2 of the AMOC, if you were watching last week. Very curious to see what you have to share
The
there.
Atlantic Meridional Overturning Circulation. It's a mouthful, but we'll talk about it.
Say that 5 times fast. All right, we'll see you on Wednesday.